All right, we're live. All right, hey everyone, it's me again. So welcome to another episode of the Side Talk podcast. Tonight I'm here with Shelly Slocum. She is a mom and an author, and today we are going to talk about being a mom. So welcome to the podcast, Shelly. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my honor to be here.
Oh,
And
yes.
live streaming, and I've got a puppy in the background.
Yeah, your puppy's excited too. So Shelly is the author of Love and Inspiration from Mom, and we're going to get into her book. But first, I want to get to know Shelly a little bit. So I want to ask, did you always want to have children?
Oh my gosh, that it's interesting that you ask that because no, I didn't. I didn't think I wanted to be a mom. I didn't love babysitting when I was a kid. And, I got married kind of young, and it took 5 years for my husband to convince me to have kids. So I just, my life would not have been complete without my kids. I have two amazing daughters, and I have three grandbabies now that I get to be Mimi and send them home. It's the most amazing thing. But it is interesting how I just didn't think I wanted them. So
That is interesting. I love that. That's like a plot twist in your life, huh?
yes, absolutely. You kind of have thoughts of what you want to do with your life. And I thought I wanted to be a physician, and that it didn't work out that way. But interestingly, one of my daughters is a pediatrician. So it is interesting. Lots of twists and turns in life.
Absolutely. So were you a stay-at-home mom, or did you work outside of the home and take care of your children as well?
I did some early on when the kids were young, did a little bit of staying home. I was working on my master's degree, and then I got my real estate license, and thinking that being a real estate broker was going to be a really flexible schedule. Little did I know that there's little or no flexibility as a realtor, and I worked 24/7 for years. So it's one of those professions where if what you get put into it, you get out of for sure. And it took me 10 years to realize that I was going to burn out if I didn't quit working 24/7. So it's challenging.
Wow. So when you quit working 24/7, how old were your kids?
Well, I started working in real estate when both of my kids were like elementary age. And so they were, middle school and high school when up to middle school and high school when I was working all the time. And my husband traveled a lot, and I just had a lot of mom guilt because I missed out on a lot of my kids growing up because I worked so much.
That was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you, how did you balance working so many hours and then also having to take care of these children? Did you have to hire help? Did you have like a parent or family member helping you? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I relied a lot because my husband traveled a lot. I relied a lot on neighbors helping me, family members helping me. And then when my kids got old enough, they spent a lot of time at home by themselves. So, that was challenging. But, early on, I realized that, I couldn't give them the quantity of time that I wanted to. So I needed to give them quality time when I was home with them. And when they were young, I started what I called 15 minutes with mom. And it sounds kind of funny, but if you ask both of my girls who are in their 30s now, what was your favorite part of growing up? They would say 15 minutes with mom. And what I implemented is at nighttime, at bedtime, With two kids, I did 15 minutes one-on-one with each girl. So, I started at 8 and I did 15 minutes with the younger one to 8:15, and then 8:15 to 8:30 with the older one. And they got to pick what we did during that 15 minutes. And I had rules, and the rules were the magic, I think. There was no electronics. It was just one-on-one time. So we set a timer, and they knew it was 15 minutes. And every night that I was home, they were guaranteed 15 minutes with mom.
I like it. That's great. I think that's a good way to kind of get some time or start somewhere with time with, your children, especially when you work a lot. So once you were able to stop working full time and you were home, what was that transition like for you? Because, when you're like a career woman and then all of a sudden now you're at home with, tweens, a teen
Right.
and a teen, what was that transition like?
Well, and I didn't stop working full time. I just put boundaries around my time so that I was still working full time, and more than full time, my kids will say, because I finally started taking Sundays off. So we did family things on Sundays. Real estate is big on the weekends, right? So I always worked on Saturday. And if I had a big thing going, I would make exceptions on Sunday. But I just did the best I could to balance my time and spend as much time with my kids as I could. So,
Okay. So are you still doing real estate?
well, interestingly, I've officially retired. And the reason for that, I was going to probably work another 5 to 10 years. But out of the blue, last year, I was diagnosed with non-smoking lung cancer. And I know I fortunately had a kidney stone, and that's how we found a nodule in my lung. And it was one of those things where fortunately, unfortunately, I had a kidney stone. Who knew? I would be thankful for that. But we caught the cancer so early that it was stage 1. It hadn't spread, thank goodness. And they removed the lower half of my left lung. And so, it was one of those, at that moment, I thought, oh gosh, I have been given a gift. I've been given a gift of time and perspective. And I decided at that moment that I needed to retire. I wanted to retire from Remax and hand over my business to my business partner who'd been with me for 12 years. And that's when I decided to publish my book.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're doing well and that you caught that
Thank you.
early. That's amazing. Thank God for that.
Thank God.
So, yeah, seriously. So tell us a little bit about this book. What sparked the interest in writing this book, and what exactly is this book about?
Well, the interest came several years ago. One of my daughters lived through a torturous experience. And as a result of that, she had a breakdown. And it was, had a successful real estate career, and I had somebody that was, a team that I built. So I was fortunately able to just literally drop everything in my world and move to where she lived. And I literally loved her back to health. I helped her get out of bed every day for weeks. And when she was strong enough to go back to work, I would send her an inspirational quote every morning, that just one that I'd found on the internet. And then I would add a couple of tips on how she could apply it in her day that day. And then I said, love mom at the end. And every day she got better and stronger and more optimistic. And after several months of that, she said, Mom, you need to put this in a book, because not everybody has somebody that can, pick them up when they're down. And so, then I was too busy with real estate. And so it sat in my computer for about 6 years. And then after my cancer diagnosis, I felt like a push from God that now you have time while you're healing, you can get this book published. So that's what I did. And it is a collection of 90 inspirational, very inspirational quotes. So the quote is on one page, and on the next page, it's my tips on how you can apply that inspiration in your day. Love, Mom.
Wow, that is really cool.
It's fun. It's great. It's inspiring. I've just had so much incredible feedback from it so far. We went live on Amazon in May, and Jack Canfield, who wrote he's the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. He wrote the foreword for my book. And he calls my book like a warm hug in a book.
Yeah, that really is. That's sweet. I love that. And I love that it was the things that you were doing for your daughter was able to get her back to a good place in her life. That's a really great story.
Yeah, and it's actually a great book for everyone, even if you are not going through a struggle. It's a nice kind of reminder. I think most people would really like to live a more inspired life and optimistic, but it's just hard to do that in the midst of all the struggles that we face. So this is just a good way. Even if you're not going through a tough time right now, you can open it up every day and just read some inspiration, and then here's how you can apply it today. So it's really a fun thing in that respect, but especially if you know somebody that's going through a tough time, it's a great gift for somebody that can just kind of help pull them back up.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm going to ask you to share some tips. So the first tip I'd like you to share is, what advice would you give to working moms who are trying to balance their work with being a mom to young children, specifically young children?
Well, so I'm a big acronym person, and I love to do acronyms because it's easy for me to remember things. So I did an acronym for mother. And so the first letter obviously is M. And I realized early on, and especially moms of young children, you're just pulled in so many directions, that the M is morning routine. And sometimes it requires that you get up earlier than the kids. And I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I did when my kids were young so that I could have my me time. And in my morning routine, I would, do my Bible reading. I would plan my day. I would just get myself grounded before my kids got up and start the day. So I think the morning routine is critical for moms, no matter how old your kids are. The O in mother is over deliver, under promise. Because as moms, we try to do it all. And I started feeling like I was letting everybody down because I would promise my kids that I would be at some event, and then I'd have a showing and I wouldn't make it. And then I'd promise buyers things, and then something would happen, so I couldn't make that. So I just over delivered and under promised. The T is time blocking. Stephen Covey says, put the big rocks in first. When your kids have important things, put those in your calendar and don't miss them. Your kids are counting on you. So time block, put those important things in first. And then the H is get help where you can. You were asking me who helped me. I relied on neighbors. I did trades. I watched people's kids so that, and they'd watch my kids. Wherever you can get help, if you can get help with meals, if you can get help with house cleaning, help with kids, whatever you can do, get as much help as you can. And then the E is exercise. Doesn't seem like an important thing, but the exercise is great for your health. It's great for your mental abilities. And I would try to incorporate my kids in exercising. We'd go for bike rides, we'd go for walks, but the more you can do to keep yourself physically fit, the better. And then the R is routine. The more you can set up routines, kids thrive in routines. And so do we as adults. And when you set up the best you can, having routines, kids count on it and they thrive in it. So that's my very best advice for all working moms, but especially when you have little kids.
I love that. So now you didn't really experience this, but maybe you have some tips for this. So what tips would you give for moms that are in the home? They're there with the kids all day long. What advice would you give to them for making self-care a priority and how to balance that?
Well, I think it comes back to routine. And, when you can set up a routine, even during the day, right? So maybe the self-care time is when the one little bit of time that you let the kids have TV time. I'm not a big proponent of placing the kids in front of the TV as a babysitter, but maybe that's when you have an opportunity to do some self-care, and they're watching a show and you're doing your Bible time or your planning time, and you're kind of refilling your cup time. So, and I think, I watch my grandkids now, one day a week, and it's exhausting. I can tell you that. But the more I have a schedule with them, the better we all do. So when we have like a certain time that we have snack and a certain time we have lunch, and we do, I do Bible study with them, and we, just different things, song time. The more you can do routine and schedule, the better everybody does.
Love it. And my final one is empty nesting. How some people have such a hard time letting go when their children are finally going to college or, leaving whatever to go wherever. So what advice would you give to parents to start preparing for that time, since as you have experienced that?
Well, it is hard. And I do remember when both of my kids went to college, I by that point I was, even though they were teenagers, I was still very close with my girls. But I knew that they would want to come home. And I didn't want that. I wanted them to have the college experience and make friends and get entrenched in their college experience. So I made them stay at school. They both went in state, but I made them stay for 30 days. They could not come home. And they thought I was the meanest person on the planet. But I thought, you know what, if you're coming home on the weekends, that's when everybody else is meeting the friends, and, and the ones that unfortunately were going home, they didn't make those good, solid friendships when everybody else is kind of desperate for friends too. So that was one thing that I did. And as much as I missed them, it was the best decision that I could have made. And then the other thing is, when my older daughter went to medical school, she was going out of state. And we had a family gathering the night before I was driving her to Chicago. And I was so choked up. I was like, she's leaving, she's moving out of state. And my dad gave me a big hug. And he said, "Sweetheart, it's the object of the exercise. You raise them and then you set them free." And I thought, you know what, Dad, that's true. I've given them everything I can in the raising of them, and now they get to go live their lives. So it's an interesting transition, moving from mom to advisor and friend. I think if you start that friendship too young, it's not good for the kids. But if you are a good, solid parent that has boundaries for your kids, and it's not your goal to be their friend, eventually you will be.
Oh, I love that. And that is so true. I love that you said that, because yes, people, our roles do change as parents. We're not mommy forever. We are always mom, but at some point it shifts and we have to speak to our children different, share our thoughts with them differently, and allow them to be the adults that they are and be more of an advisor and less of a dictator or
Right. No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
So I love that. Well, it was amazing having you on the show tonight. Please tell everyone where they can purchase your book and where they can connect with you.
Well, my book is available on Amazon. It's Love and Inspiration from Mom by Shelly Slocum. Has a beautiful butterfly on it. This picture I actually took myself. And I also have a website where you can connect with me. It's loveandinspiration.org, O-R-G, and it's spelled out. And there's an opportunity you can connect to Amazon from my website. But also, if you have questions, I'm an open book. I'm happy to share any tips or tricks that I learned over the years. I turned 60 this year, so I've got a lot of experience under my belt.
Well, you look great, Shelly. 60 today is not what it used to be.
You are correct.